Back in the day, condos were the more affordable option, but lately it seems like condos are almost more expensive than a single family home because of the really high HOA payments. But these days, there's so much drama around condos. I remember my first condo, we didn't even go through with the purchase because there was so much going on, legal battles and constant construction issues. We ended up backing out of it and buying a townhouse instead. But this recent story is pretty wild. So check this out. Kim Bacon looks like any other property manager except her desk is littered with jewelry receipts and HOA invoices. She's the queen bee of Mastino Management, the firm that's running both the Traditions and Shadow Creek HOAs. But behind closed doors, Kim is scrolling through the online payment portal in private, approving auto withdrawals and cashing in like she's Sonic the Hedgehog. As the balance climbs, Kim clicks place order on a designer bag, a luxury Lincoln SUV, and then pays her own mortgage like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, there's a Shadow Creek resident who's in the portal trying to make a payment, but the portal shows that the payment failed. Behind his eyes is panic as the late fees keep stacking, even though the bank shows that the money has already been taken from his account. Now he happens to meet his neighbor Dave on the sidewalk. Both swap horror stories about vanishing payments and a sudden $1,950 emergency insurance assessment that's due in 72 hours. So they both start digging, and one night during spring of 2024, they are going down this Google rabbit hole where they uncover this insane bombshell. Kim Bacon is being sued for stealing $700,000 from a different HOA called Traditions. Now, the court docs list luxury handbags, a Lincoln SUV, and designer shoes as non-essential expenditures. A judge has already ordered Mastino and Bacon to pay back more than $2.7 million. Now, Craig slaps these printouts on Dave's kitchen island. We've been paying for her shopping sprees. So then these two guys start going door to door, knocking and doing some Facebook threads. They get together a community that looks like a town hall meeting. The HOA board caves in, promising a clean break with a brand new management company, CCMA. Then they try to tack on a surprise $35,000 roof assessment and hanging it over their escrow like a guillotine when he goes to try and sell his house. And nobody can seem to know where any of the money is. These rogue managers like Kim are siphoning tens of millions of dollars statewide while regulators are doing nothing. Meanwhile, Kim goes dark, nobody can find her, her mailbox is full, and she's super difficult to get a hold of. The fact is, almost 9,000 homeowner associations exist across Colorado, and 47% of those homes are managed by an HOA or an HOA management company. But there's a huge elephant in the room that not very many people are willing to talk about. But before we dive into what's happening, let's get on the same page about why HOAs exist and how they formed and whether they do in fact increase home values and if we even need these organizations anymore. So after World War II, there was a huge housing boom in the US with tons of new suburban developments popping up. Developers needed a way to manage these communities and make sure that they stayed attractive and well maintained. At first, the developers created HOAs to maintain control over the community even after they sold off all of the properties, and this allowed them to enforce the standards to protect their investment. Over time, the control of the HOA would typically transition from the developer to the homeowners themselves. HOAs are supposed to make sure that properties are well maintained, which helps keep the property values high. No one wants to live next to a house that looks like a junkyard in the front yard, right? And the other thing was that a lot of these HOAs were providing amenities like swimming pools, parks and clubhouses, and other recreational facilities. Some of them might have a gym inside, and these amenities would also enhance the quality of life for the residents, increasing the value of the properties and make the community more attractive. HOAs also enforce the rules and the regulations that were designed to maintain that certain standard of living in the community, and they can include things like restrictions on paint colors, landscaping, pet policies. We all have that obnoxious neighbor that wants to paint their house bright yellow or bright pink. The HOAs are also responsible for maintaining common areas, which can be a significant undertaking, like the flowers and the landscaping and all that. Snow removal, repairs, fences that go down, shared facilities. And a lot of HOAs will also provide trash removal that would help all of the trash bins get picked up on the same day so that there's not always trash bins outside. When you have an HOA that lets you pick your own trash company, they'll come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it seems like there's trash bins outside every single day. But they'll also have security This can be convenient for homeowners and make sure that these services are provided consistently and they don't have to worry about it. It's just included in their dues. A lot of HOAs will also have community events like Banning Lewis here in the Springs. Wolf Ranch just kicked off their Wednesday night events where they have concerts and food trucks and things like that, which is fun. It builds community. It makes the neighborhood more attractive. Fireworks, things like that. They have a lot of fun stuff for the kids and for the families. So in short, HOAs were created to help maintain and manage these communities, protect that property value, and provide amenities and services to all the residents. When they work well, they can be a huge asset to a community, but as we've talked about before, they can also be a source of conflict and frustration if they're not managed properly, or if the rules are too restrictive, or people are going on shopping sprees with the residents' money. Now, all of this stuff has to be in written form, all these governing documents, all of that has to be in place so that when you do decide to purchase the property, you know what you're getting yourself into. Our neighborhood doesn't allow chickens. I would love to have chickens in my backyard, but we just can't do that. We can't work on cars out in the front. There's a lot of things that we can't do. Even some single family homes that have extra parking where you could park an RV, you're not supposed to park the RV there. There's a neighborhood in Meridian Ranch that you would think would be RV friendly, but they're not at all. They're also supposed to keep a budget so that they can share that with you anytime someone asks, then they'll be able to see like a history of what they're spending their money on, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, records, sometimes even do audits. They're supposed to be doing all kinds of different things, holding insurance, doing maintenance, repairs, expenses, all that stuff. Usually there is a board of directors, and then you have a bunch of members, you have regular meetings. These are all required things to do as an HOA. And it's supposed to be this fun, happy community thing, but as we've seen, sometimes things can go sideways, and it's not always the HOA that goes sideways. Sometimes it's the homeowners that don't want to pay their dues, whether that's because they can no longer afford it, or they feel that they don't need to pay them because of something that the HOA did to them, or maybe there's some strife. Maybe the HOA is planning to do something that they don't agree with and they don't want to do. The HOA finances can be a wreck when homeowners are not paying their fair share, their dues. Even though they can get a lien or foreclosure put on their house, they're still behaving this way. Years ago, we had this huge windstorm, and so the HOA I can't remember if we had to do a special assessment, but a lot of people were not paying their HOA, so it took a very long time because some of the fences got knocked down, and it took a while for them to fix everything because a lot of the homeowners were not paying their HOA dues. Obviously, if you don't have the money, you can't pay for the fence to be fixed. But the biggest question here is, do the HOAs truly help with home values? Now, I did some digging, and homes in HOAs often do sell for more. Some studies show that homes in HOA communities tend to sell for at least 5 to 8.5% more compared to similar homes outside of HOAs. For example, one study found that homes within 2 miles of an HOA sold at an 8.5% higher price, and another institute found a 5 to 6% boost in value for HOA homes. The majority of homeowners in national surveys do say that the HOA rules either protect or have a neutral effect on property values, with just a small percentage saying that they can harm values. Maybe a rule that they can't have pets. Well, it's better to just have a weight limit on the pet. But if you're an HOA that's trying to say no dogs allowed completely, then that means people are not going to want to buy, especially in Colorado where everybody has a dog, everyone loves dogs, and you try to say that they can't have their best friend living there, then they're going to go find something else, and that could ruin or, devalue that property. However, appreciation rates might be lower. Some newer research will say that HOA homes might start out more expensive. They don't always appreciate as quickly as non-HOA homes. And then high fees can actually scare off buyers or eat into your investment. Some people will want more of their money going towards their actual investment versus paying for all these amenities that they may or may not care about. So the impact of an HOA on value can depend a lot on how well the association is run and what you get for your money. So bottom line is that HOA homes usually sell for more upfront, but it does take a longer time to build that equity. So with all the drama around uninsurability around condos and how the HOAs are ruining people's lives basically when it comes to HOA, I thought it would be helpful to come up with some tips when you are buying in an HOA community. It's important to know that the HOA membership is mandatory. You can't just opt out. If the property's in an HOA, you have to join. There are rules and regulations that you're bound by laws, which can restrict what you can do with your property. you do have financial obligations. Like I said, you have to pay those fees and assessments. Okay, when I sold my townhouse years ago, there was a catastrophic assessment because we had so much hail that they didn't have enough to cover the catastrophic type of hail, where it was just like so bad that they needed way more money to get it all done. Fortunately, the seller had the gap for the catastrophic insurance. So if you are going to do that, I would highly recommend that, especially in Colorado where we do get hail and really bad weather. But everyone else had to come up with another $5,000 on top of what they were already paying. So that is not a fun surprise that you want to have as you're purchasing a condo or a townhouse. So you want to make sure that there aren't any assessments. Failure to pay those can put a lien on your property or even foreclosure, like I said earlier. And also the architectural control, the HOA is going to have control of what changes that you can make to your property's appearance. I had a neighbor that wanted to put in rock on her property instead of grass, and she had to have 3 neighbors that needed to agree to having rock instead of grass, which is crazy that you can't do that to your own property. But people don't want to read those 20-page CCRs, but that's something that you have to read because you might not agree with everything that is in that list. And buyers, your real estate agent is not responsible for interpreting your HOA docs for you. You need to be able to hire an attorney to review those and interpret those for you and read it line by line and figure it out. You need to investigate the HOA's financial health and read all the governing documents very carefully. And the seller does need to disclose everything about the HOA that they know, but sometimes they don't. And they're supposed to provide you with very specific key HOA documents, including declarations, the bylaws, the rules, any governing documents. The meeting minutes are supposed to be in there. The insurance policy information needs to be in there. Assessment lists, regular and special financial documents, budgets, statements, audits, fees, anything in the history needs to be in there. Notices of construction defect actions. We had a gutter that needed to be replaced, and they were apparently in a lawsuit with the company to get it fixed properly. And if they couldn't get the company to do it, guess who else is going to have to do it? The homeowners. Now, you do have the right to review these documents. You have a time frame on the contract, and you can back out of the transaction, the sale of the home, if you find something that is unsatisfactory. And you do want to do that immediately. Because if you have a massive RV, but the HOA says you can't park an RV there, then that's going to be a problem. And there is a deadline. So you want to make sure that you don't dawdle. You get it done right away. Read it. It's boring. You got to read it. And you want to make sure that you're getting every single one of these documents. If the seller does not get them to you, then you get an automatic 10-day extension to review all of those. I mean, I've got so many horror stories for myself and also horror stories from my clients, my buyers, and sellers. And so this is something that you really want to avoid having to go through, getting a mediator, trying to work things out, spending all this money in court costs and things like that. The last thing you want to do is have to get an attorney to deal with any of this stuff. Do your due diligence while you are purchasing your condo. Then this is all stuff that you can avoid in the future, but also keeping the current HOA on notice, on check, and making sure that they are sending those statements every month, making sure that you're getting that balance and communicating, going to those HOA meetings, because if they're thinking that no one cares and that they're just going to have a free-for-all, then there are people out there that are going to take advantage of that. Okay, so here's my biggest pet peeve about people who say, oh, I just don't want to deal with it. If you don't deal with it and you don't report these things, they're going to keep doing this to other people if you don't have the energy to fight it. There are people that this kind of stuff happens to all the time. And I even know friends, and I'm like, we have to go down to the HOA. You have to report it. You have to, go to this website. I'll link it below if you're having any HOA issues in Colorado, so you can file your little complaint. But the more that you say, oh, I don't have the energy to fight it, they're probably just not going to do anything anyway, those are all going to come back to the next person and to the next person. And since there's little to no oversight or regulation over these HOA communities, they're going to keep doing it to people, and they're going to keep thinking that it's okay. And they're never going to get caught. To learn more about condos and townhomes, even, you can click on the video that's coming up next on the screen. If you need help with real estate, my name is Iris, real estate agent here in Colorado. Would love to help you. There is a link down in the description below to help you with your real estate.